So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the pain that most companies experience as they scale their headcount. I'm going to cover why growing companies experience difficulty as they take on more and more employees, and more importantly, how a lot of the pain can be avoided. So all companies that grow beyond 20 or 30 employees experience growing pains where the whole organization seems to get less productive than it once was. It happens again at around 80 to 100 employees, and we're going to explore why this happens and what you can do to overcome the pain. So who is this presentation for? Well, maybe you're a CEO, a COO, or founder of a small or mid-sized but fast-growing company, and your organization is experiencing these growing pains. Things aren't quite the same as when you were a micro company with just 5 or 10 employees. Back then you were nimble, moving fast, getting things done. Everyone knew what they had to do, and it was easy to communicate the direction you wanted your company to grow in. And since then you've experienced maybe huge growth, but things are now starting to slow down and you can't quite figure out why. You're finding it maybe harder and harder to understand what everyone is doing. You're not sure if everyone is focusing on the right things. Your employees don't necessarily know the company goals, and therefore they don't know what their focus should be. And you don't have a clear idea of the obstacles your staff are facing that are preventing successful outcomes. Now, maybe you've tried introducing communication tools like Slack, but you're finding it too hard to cut through the noise to the important information, and the noise is kind of too distracting. Perhaps you've tried sitting on all the operational meetings, but this is getting you bogged down in the detail and it's taking you away from focusing on strategy. Maybe the sales team aren't hitting their targets. Perhaps your teams are missing opportunities they should be hitting and you can't quite figure out why. Maybe your competitors seem to be racing ahead and you need to do something really fast, but you kind of feel helpless. You know that if you make your teams as high performing as you once were as a small company, then you're going to go on and achieve great things. So if this sounds like you, then stay with me for the remainder of this presentation, as I think you're going to find it really useful. So let's look at the core concept I want to discuss in this presentation. When organizations grow quickly as their headcount increases, they often hit a barrier where growth starts to slow, where overall organizational performance seems lower and communication across the organization is harder, and where work is less focused and poorly aligned to the organization's strategy. Managers and leaders find it more difficult to see into the organization. Outcomes tend to be unclear, progress towards outcomes is hard to understand, and the detail behind the progress is difficult to see. Now, organizations suffer this pain because the following 6 problems exist in the company. So number 1, it happens when company goals are unclear and poorly communicated. Number 2, employee efforts are modest and not challenging. Number 3, organizations are action-oriented rather than outcome-oriented. And number 4, managers fail to coach their teams and give regular feedback. Number 5, staff do not regularly focus on their goals. And number 6, employees have little insight into the activities and progress taking place. The truth is that nearly all companies go through this pain at some point in their growth. Now here's the core concept, and if you can understand this, then everything will make sense. You can avoid these pain points by implementing OKR software. So let's start with an explanation of OKR. OKR stands for Objectives and Key Results. It's a goal methodology that is used by high-performing organizations across the world, including Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And recently, smaller companies have started to see how it can benefit them. OKR is designed to encourage employees to set challenging goals that align with the organization's strategy and whose outcomes can be easily measured. Creating alignment in the organization is one of the major benefits, and the idea is to ensure that everyone is setting challenging goals with well-defined outcomes to a regular cadence. OKR also helps build transparency around work because everyone should have access to each other's goals and be able to view the progress of any goal. And some OKR tools also encourage feedback and recognition around outcomes, which helps drive higher rates of employee engagement and better overall organizational performance. And by implementing OKR, you can ensure that everyone knows the direction the company is heading. They know what the company goals are, and they know what their priorities should be in order to help drive the desired company objectives. It encourages people to focus on outcomes rather than just activities. It will create clarity around progress. It will create transparency and accountability. It will help your managers coach their employees effectively, providing timely and helpful feedback, and it will accelerate the overall performance of the company. So just for some quick background about me and Workteam. My name is Simon Bates, and I'm the founder of Workteam. This is not my first company. I've built software companies in the past and gone through the same pains that most small companies go through. My last company, Byte Squared, was the first company to provide a Microsoft Office compatible editor for the iPhone back in 2008. That company was subsequently acquired by Citrix, a large US company. And this is when I first experienced OKR and how it could stretch teams to achieve great things. Now, as a founder of several small companies, I immediately saw how the benefits of OKR that a large enterprise like Citrix was seeing were completely applicable to small companies that were transitioning through that stage of growth where they start to experience the pain points that I've previously described. And that's when I decided to start Workteam and design an offering that could both help small companies eliminate the growing pains that they generally experience, but also to help them catapult them on a trajectory of further growth. And Workteam is a privately owned company based in the UK. So let's consider the first problem that we mentioned earlier. So think back to when your business was first started. You were probably a small team of very talented people who communicated well, who knew what everyone else was doing and was responsible for, who knew the direction the company was going in, who knew exactly what was required of them to contribute to the business, and everything you did would have been strongly aligned with where the business wanted to go. And as businesses grow, they lose some of that. So a necessary layer of management is introduced between the leaders of the company and the people that deliver the outcomes. And the first thing that happens is people lose that ability to prioritize on the most important things to focus on. And this is all down to communication. When the company was very small, communicating the outcomes you wanted was easy, and everyone communicated with each other much more efficiently. But now, with more staff and a layer of management between the people setting the direction and the people implementing the direction, that line of communication is impeded. And in fact, Gallup conducted a survey around communication of company strategy, and they discovered that less than 50% of employees say that they have a clear understanding of the company goals. And if employees don't know what your company wants to achieve, it is extremely difficult for them to know what their priorities should be. So OKR can help here. It gives your employees access to the company's goals. It gives the leadership team the ability to cascade high-level goals to key employees, and gives all employees the autonomy to set goals that are aligned with those company goals. Everyone can then see how what they do is contributing to the big picture, something that's really important to keep employees engaged in their work. But more than anything, everyone is doing work that is contributing to the company's overall goals. So let's look at a quick example. Keeler are a small Canadian software company who have recent experience of implementing OKR. And at Keeler, the management team was successfully communicating the direction when the company was very small. But as the company grew, they made the assumption that their staff were still aligned and that everyone knew what their priorities should be and that everyone was running in the same direction. But all of a sudden, they realized that this was not the case, and they started to see a little chaos and noise around priorities, and everyone was a little less satisfied because there was more uncertainty. And once they started using OKR, all their staff had access to the long, medium, and short-term goals of the company, all presented in a single, clear page, making it very transparent as to the organization's strategic objectives. And this made it very easy for their staff to know exactly what their priorities should be and where to focus their efforts. And they started to see some real performance benefits in terms of the fact that people were focusing on things that really helped drive the company towards its goals. Tassie Gottschlag at Keeler also found tangible benefits from better employee alignment through using OKR. And she said that in the past, they would rely on spreadsheets, one-on-ones, and emails to align their goals. And this worked when they were smaller, but their rapid growth caused this method to be less efficient because there were so many other things going on. And fundamentally, they knew how to stay focused and aligned, but they grew to such a size that they had to find a better way to align and coordinate their efforts. Once they decided to use OKR, it made it easy for their employees to ensure the goals they chose to work on were directly aligned with the company's strategy. And their staff loved knowing that the work they were doing was visibly connected to supporting the company goals. And it meant that it was rare that people worked on projects that were not priorities. So by introducing OKR into the equation, your communication of company goals to employees will improve. And this will help you avoid confusion and miscommunication around the direction the company is heading. You will improve alignment. This means employees begin to focus on priorities that have greater impact on the company goals. And by asking your employees to focus on goals that are aligned with those company goals, you ensure that everyone is prioritizing on the right things and you intensify their contribution to the company. And when your staff can see how what they do contributes to the bigger picture, they feel more inspired and engaged. You also achieve greater buy-in from employees towards goals and activities that align to the company priorities. So a few questions. What happens if employees don't know or understand the company goals? Well, if they don't understand the goals, then they can't be expected to know how to prioritize the work that they do. They can work as hard as they like, but if they're working on things that don't move the needle for the company, then their effort is effectively wasted. We call this poor alignment. And unfortunately, too many companies fail to recognize the value of alignment, and it explains why 87% of companies fail to execute on their annual goals. Why does this problem happen as companies grow? Well, it's because as companies grow, they have to introduce management layers. And even with the most competent managers, when there's an extra layer between those directing the strategy and those doing the work, the messages can get mutated or lost altogether. And then finally, what are the additional benefits of communicating company goals clearly? Well, when employees understand what the company wants to achieve, then they will feel more engaged and it will be easier to gain their buy-in to initiatives that are aligned with the company's strategy. So let's move on to the next problem that we identified earlier. Many companies subscribe to the idea of having their employees set goals, but so many of them fail to do it well. And quite often you see goals that are very modest, which consequently have very little impact on the organization goals. And companies don't do a great job of encouraging employees to set aspirational goals. Employees and even their managers don't want to look as if they're failing. And worse still, some companies actually tie bonus compensation directly to achievement of goals. And the result, of course, is that employees will set themselves very modest goals to ensure they receive their bonus payments. So employees must be encouraged to set themselves challenging goals. And whilst they should aim to hit 100% of their committed goals, it's important that they are not afraid to miss hitting aspirational goals. Ideally, employees should aim to complete around 70% of their aspirational goals. If they complete more than 70%, then perhaps the aspirational goals are too modest. If they complete a lot less than 70%, then it's likely that they are too challenging. And the review cycle in OKR, which takes place at the end of the goal period, should be used to assess the difficulty level of each goal and to determine whether goals should be set more or less challenging for the next goal period. And when you ask your employees to set themselves challenging goals and not simply goals that they know they will achieve, then people tend to be more challenged and therefore more motivated, resulting in higher levels of engagement. The company also benefits as its overall performance and velocity of execution increases. So a few questions. Why do employees tend to set modest goals? Well, companies often don't set a culture where it is okay to miss aspirational goals. And as we said, some even tie compensation directly to achievement of goals. And this actually encourages employees to set modest goals as they don't want to miss out on those compensation payments. Also, employees don't want to feel like they failed. And if the culture is one that reinforces this belief, then they will err on the side of caution and set modest, non-challenging goals. And then a second question, what are the benefits of challenging aspirational goals? Well, as well as driving higher levels of individual. So a common mistake that many organizations make when setting goals is to forget stretch goals outcomes. Without fear Too many times I've seen goals that read they become more hire two salespeople. This generally results in lower industry employee churn. And these are not outcome-based goals, they're simply activities. And as such, it's really difficult to measure the impact they have on the organization's goals. Goals should be measurable and they should define a desired outcome. And by using OKR, this is implicit in the KR part of OKR. The O in OKR is the objective. This is the where do we want to get to. The KR in OKR are the key results. These specify measurable outcomes that will define the success criteria of the objective. And your staff will be encouraged to think in an outcome-oriented way. So let's look at an example. Let's say our objective was to get fit and healthy in 3 months. With an activity-based mindset, we might set a key result to go to the gym 3 times a week and stop eating hamburgers. Now, both activity-based key results are certainly specific and measurable, and we could say with absolute certainty whether or not we'd achieved the key results, but the emphasis is not on the desired outcome. We could still achieve the key results and not meet our goal of getting fit and healthy. And what's more, there may be other factors at play that determine our fitness or health, and focusing on the activity-based key results does not encourage us to become flexible about how we get there over the course of the 3 months. What we should be measuring is not the activity, but the desired outcome. If we chose a sensible outcome of losing 10 pounds, for instance, and reducing our resting heart rate from 70 beats per minute to 60 beats per minute, then we could say that we had achieved an acceptable outcome for the goal. Going to the gym and consuming less calories then become initiatives that support the outcome-based key results. The difference is subtle, but it's really important. So it is so important to ensure that staff key results are outcome-oriented and not simply actions. If they are outcome-oriented, we know that if they are achieved, they will move the needle on the higher level goals that they support. And the activities required in order to achieve those key results may then follow. So a few questions. Why do people have a tendency to set activity-based goals? So people resist setting outcome-based goals because activity-based goals don't engender much accountability. And it's easy to say, hey, I had 10 face-to-face meetings with prospective customers and consider the goal complete, even though I didn't close any of them. So the next question, how can we encourage staff to set outcome-based goals? So an OKR tool will help do this. OKRs are, by their nature, outcome-based. So just using the tool will ensure that those goals become outcome-based. Question number 3, but don't we need activities to achieve the outcomes? And the answer is yes, absolutely we do. But the key point is to ensure that employees are thinking about the outcome first before they go on to define the activities and initiatives that will achieve those outcomes. So let's move on to our next pain point. If companies are seeking exceptional, not just incremental, if they're seeking exceptional performance gains, then they have to invest in training managers to be inspiring coaches. And today's employees really need ongoing coaching conversations to perform well. It's like an informal weekly check-in lasting less than 15 minutes can actually be incredibly powerful if it's meaningful and focused. These types of conversations don't come naturally to most managers. And actually, Gallup revealed in a survey they recently did that only 1 manager in 10 possesses the talent to manage effectively. And only 21% of employees agree that their performance is managed in a way that motivates them to do outstanding work. So having a check-in tool that can provide some structure to these conversations is extremely valuable in these cases. It can help managers understand what is going on in their teams and can enable them to spot opportunities for giving praise for great achievements. And it can also help managers identify obstacles preventing employees progressing towards their goals. And it can give them a platform from which to coach the employee towards successful outcomes. So at Keeler, before they implemented an OKR tool, it was getting harder and harder for the leaders to get a really good understanding of the obstacles that were preventing staff from getting things done. And by having their employees answer a few simple questions put to them each week by the check-in feature of their OKR tool, they were able to get insights into their teams that enabled them to coach their staff in ways that they were not able to do before. And the employees loved the software because it actually gave them a voice. They felt that what they had to say had become more impactful on decisions being made in the business. They became more engaged because of the coaching and feedback they received, and managers were able to make better, more informed decisions based on a clearer understanding of what was happening in their teams. Managers also had the tools to give either private, specific feedback to help their employees gain from their experience, or to give praise for great outcomes, which helped ensure that their team felt recognized and leading to higher levels of employee motivation. So providing a mechanism that gives employees a voice and managers an effective way to coach can be a really powerful way of engaging manager and employee to work together to achieve great outcomes. A small number of OKR tools have features that allow managers to choose the questions put to their staff within a check-in. And the idea is that each employee is prompted to answer a set of questions on a regular basis, which is usually weekly, and then that employee's manager can review the answers, commenting, liking, and mentioning other people in the organization to bring them into a discussion around a particular issue. It's really, really powerful. So this form of digital check-in, if you like, can be a really, really effective way to manage and coach remote staff too, and keep them from feeling neglected. And some check-in tools can also include ways for staff to update the progress towards their OKRs. And having staff keep the status of their goals relevant and up to date is so important for keeping everyone engaged and excited around the progress towards the company goals. So a couple of questions. Why are check-ins important? Well, the answer is they help engage managers and their employees in powerful coaching conversations that help employees overcome obstacles and achieve great outcomes. And they give managers a really good insight into what's happening in their team and the progress being made, and they give employees a voice to feed back vital information to their manager on a regular basis. And with an OKR tool that incorporates the check-in feature, they can also be used to track the progress of goals and start conversations around getting things done. High-performing organizations turn their managers into coaches. So another question, how does coaching actually help employees? Well, it helps inspire and motivate them to improve their knowledge, to increase skills, and to change behaviors that will drive greater performance in the workplace. It also increases the regular communication between employee and their manager, making it easier for managers to identify problem areas that are impeding the employee from achieving their best possible outcomes. So let's move on to the next problem. So once goals have been set and agreed, it's really easy for employees to forget all about them until it's time to review them at the end of the goal period. And this is a common behavior that really needs to be avoided at all costs, as it loses many of the benefits associated with setting goals. And for goals to be effective, they must be forefront in everyone's minds. If things don't go to plan and a goal looks like it's not going to be achieved, people need to know about it straight away so that remedial action can take place. Without regular focus on goals, the goal-setting program just becomes a fruitless exercise. Continual focus on goals and their outcomes is what drives forward productivity. We have a case study, Keeler, I mentioned them previously, and with them having their staff align their goals to company strategy was really powerful. However, without that continual refocus back onto their goals, that benefit was easily diminished. So the process of revisiting, updating, and collaborating around goals actually develops a habit of doing everything that moves the needle towards implementing the company's strategy. And to make goal setting effective and to make it much more likely to hit their outcomes, employees must bring focus back to their goals, ideally on a weekly cadence. Now, some OKR tools provide this capability with a check-in feature where, what we mentioned previously, where the employees have an extremely easy way to quickly update their manager with the status of their goals and the progress against the key results. But without continual, frequent focus back onto their goals, employees can easily drift and miss their targets altogether. So a couple of questions. Why is it so important to continually focus employees onto their goals? Well, without that continual focus back onto their goals, as we've said, employees can easily drift and forget about their true priorities, instead focusing on work that does not move the needle on organizational goals. And additionally, regular focus on goals means that goals are kept up to date, keeping everyone abreast of progress, which is really, really important. So how can OKR help? Well, some OKR tools prompt employees to update their goals via a check-in, which makes it easy to update the status and the progress of their goals all in one go. Conversations can easily be started with anyone in the organization around the progress of a particular goal or key result. So this is like a really powerful thing to be able to update the progress of key results and the status of goals from a check-in tool in the OKR. So let's look at our final pain point, our final problem, number 6. So as organizations grow, depending on how they're structured, they can easily develop natural silos where teams or departments start becoming isolated from one another. And this isn't usually through choice, it's because each team will have its own focus and priorities, and teams can tend to head off in their own direction. And over time, it becomes really hard for anyone outside of a particular team to fully understand the activities, the challenges, and the decisions happening within that team. And this can make it really tough for anyone outside the team to know how to interact with that team. And this becomes a real problem when teams start to depend on each other, which they invariably do. And if people outside the team struggle to communicate with people in a siloed team, this is where problems can start. And people outside the team will lack certainty over what's happening within the team, and this can impact on the efficiency of the decisions that they make. Sometimes the leadership team itself within a company can become siloed, and this is when real problems start to happen. We talked earlier about how important effective communication of company goals is. Well, when you have a siloed leadership team, that's the first thing that happens. But even worse, if employees start to see anything negative impacting the organization, when you've got a siloed leadership team, your staff can really quickly start to lose faith in the strategy set by the leaders of the company, and they can very quickly start to lose their engagement with the company. So when organizations become more transparent about their goals and the reasons behind the decisions they make, they experience a number of benefits. Firstly, when information is shared openly, hierarchies are lowered and trust increases. Employees then feel empowered to make faster, more informed decisions, and this can help the speed at which the overall organization performs. You're also much more likely to get better buy-in to your company's strategy by your employees. Effectively, you get some of your efficiency back that you had as a much smaller company. So a couple of questions. How does encouraging transparency impact growth? Well, when employees have a clear understanding of the activities taking place in other parts of the organization and the reasons behind some of those decisions, they are able to understand how what they do fits into the bigger picture. They can make faster, more informed decisions. Their trust towards the organization increases, impacting in a positive way their engagement with the organization. And the second question, how does an OKR tool encourage transparency? Well, some OKR tools let any member of staff access the OKRs of any person, team, or department, and it lets them see the progress of the goals and the conversations associated with any objective. And employees get to understand the decision-making behind the goals and can themselves contribute to the discussion on any goal, and where they feel they have a contribution to make, the OKR tool ensures that they have a voice. So to sum up, barriers to growth can be drastically reduced and in some cases eliminated altogether if you ensure that these 6 points are implemented in your organization. So, number 1, company goals are clear and communicated well. Number 2, employee efforts are ambitious and linked to company goals. Number 3, goal setting is outcome-oriented. Number 4, managers are encouraged to coach their teams and give regular feedback. Number 5, employees regularly focus on their goals and keep progress updated. And number 6, transparency around goals is encouraged from the top. And this can be achieved by implementing an OKR tool. So you've got a couple of options if you want to benefit from all the benefits that we've discussed here. So one option would be to record OKRs in a Confluence page or on a spreadsheet and then share that spreadsheet with your staff. This would, would be a way to write down OKRs and to make them available to your staff, but it would come with a number of disadvantages versus using an OKR tool. Firstly, it would be difficult to manage hundreds of OKRs in a single spreadsheet. People would find it difficult to visualize the alignment, and they would not remain engaged with it as a tool. Companies start using OKR to get their staff engaged with their goals, and to do that, it needs to be as easy as possible to use and as engaging as possible in terms of what your staff can get from the tool for themselves. One of the intentions of OKR is to encourage transparency across the organization. It should be really easy to quickly view the goals of any person, team, or department and start engaging with them. This is not easily done with a spreadsheet or Confluence tool. If you use a spreadsheet, you'd have no framework in place for reminding your employees to update the progress of their goals and to provide useful feedback on wins and obstacles associated with their goals. And ideally, your staff should be prompted to update their goals and engage in deeper conversations with their manager and other people. This should be done on a regular basis around their progress, etc. And as importantly, there's no big picture view in a spreadsheet. And as leaders, we want a clear idea of progress of all the OKRs that align to the company and with the option to drill down into more detail. And this is not possible with a spreadsheet. And worse still, a spreadsheet is susceptible to anyone changing or even deleting information that they shouldn't. And this is particularly problematic when you have 50 or more people accessing and editing the same spreadsheet. And your second option is to use an OKR tool, and today I want to talk about Workteam. So Workteam is an OKR tool, and with Workteam, your staff have access to the long, medium, and short-term goals in a single screen. Now, most companies fail to communicate their goals well, as we mentioned, and having a single place where your staff can see the full strategic vision of the company is very powerful. And I mentioned how important alignment is. Well, with Workteam, your staff have access to all the managerial, departmental, and organization goals and can easily align their own goals with one of those. One of the drivers of increased performance is providing that transparency across the organization. With Workteam, your staff can locate anyone in the directory and easily access their OKRs. They can even start a conversation with that person around their OKR or key result. They can also access any department and look at the status and the progress of OKRs for that department. And it's so important for your employees to keep their goals up to date. Workteam has a check-in feature that we talked about earlier, which prompts your staff to update their goals once a week and to start a valuable coaching conversation with their manager about their progress. And this is fundamental to ensuring that your employees maximize their chances of achieving their goals. And back when the company was small, you could easily go up to any employee and start a conversation with them about their work. But things are different now. The company's larger, and perhaps not everyone is in the same location. And with Workteam, you view anyone's progress and you quickly spot the obstacles that are preventing their outcomes, and you can go in and start a conversation around how to overcome those obstacles, and you can bring as many people as you like into that conversation. This is so powerful. And if your staff want to become more granular in their planning around a goal or a key result, they can use Workteam to create a set of initiatives or actionable tasks whose status can be tracked in the same way that you track the status of OKRs. And they can be assigned to various people within the organization, and the visibility of those plans or initiatives or lists of tasks can be given to anyone. So again, this is for fast-growing companies with a headcount between 25 and 250 employees who are experiencing growth pains or barriers to growth and are looking to catapult themselves onto a trajectory of sustained further growth. So just looking at a few quotes from some of our customers, Keeler, a quote they said was that your software is putting all the other software that I've looked at to shame at a quarter of the price. So after looking at a number of different solutions, Tassi Gottschlag at Keeler concluded that Workteam was head and shoulders above the competition in terms of the features and usability demanded by small and mid-sized businesses, and it was a lot more affordable. Careersource, Suncoast, they said that the product support has been amazing, and the Workteam team are very responsive and help with any issues or questions that they have. Let's just run through some quick and dirty benefits that you're going to get if you use Workteam. So first of all, you will get a better sense of the progress being made in your company. Your employees will be able to make faster, more informed decisions because they have more visibility across the organization, and that is going to lead to a higher performing organization. Your staff will become higher performers as they strive to achieve challenging goals that align with the company's strategy, and they're going to feel more engaged as they interact in a more meaningful way with their managers about their work. And you will eliminate some, if not all, of the barriers to growth that you are currently experiencing. So let's just run through some of the features. So feature number one, employees are going to have an easy way to access the organization's OKRs, colleagues OKRs, team and department OKRs. They're going to be able to track progress towards objectives via metrics-based key results. You're going to be able to configure different ways of having your employees be able to align their goals, whether they align them to their manager, to their team goals, or to their department goals, or directly to the organization goals. You're going to have the ability to have your employees do bottom-up alignment and also optional top-down goal cascading. You're going to have dashboards so that you can see in one dashboard insights of progress across your teams and departments and even the entire organization. You're going to be able to facilitate regular goal status updates through weekly check-ins. Those check-ins can be weekly, they can be bi-weekly or even less frequently, but we recommend weekly. And you're going to be able to use check-ins to create a culture of coaching, which is so, so important. You're going to be able to start and track conversations around any goal across the organization. And there's an optional planner with Workteam that's going to let you track initiatives and team tasks associated with key results or associated with objectives. There are also features for feedback and praise that's going to allow you to start creating a culture of feedback and recognition in your organization. Again, something that's really important. In terms of identity management, you're not going to have to have separate passwords for Workteam users. You're going to be able to synchronize with your skin-based user provisioning, compatible with Okta, MS Azure, Active Directory. That's going to synchronize with those identity providers and automatically provision and or deprovision your users. You're also going to have single sign-on so that people don't have to remember a separate password for Workteam. They can use their single sign-on password. And also you're going to have integrations with Slack, HubSpot if you use that, and also Google Sheets for updating progress of key results and automatically pulling that information down from those external third-party external sources. So taking a brief look at the features in Workteam, the first thing I want to show you is the organization OKRs. You can see that in this single screen, employees get to see the long, medium, and short-term goals all together. And this is a very powerful view, as it's so important to be clear about the organization's goals. And this view is configurable in terms of what you want to show here. For instance, long-term goals, annual goals, they're optional, and you can also choose whether or not you show the company vision, mission statement, or BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. All of those things can be configured as to what you show. Workteam makes it very easy for employees to manage their own goals. So in this screen, you can, they get to see the detail of their goals and the status assigned to each objective. It's a nice way to visualize their goals. And then there are a number of align options. So when they're setting out, planning their goals, they want to be able to align those goals to another goal within Workteam, a higher level goal. And for instance, you might want your employees to align their goals directly to the organization goals, or instead, as shown in this image, you may want to let them choose whether they align to team, departmental, or manager's goals. So there's a number of different configurable options for goal alignment. Now, revisiting objectives on a regular basis is super, super important. So Workteam can be configured to prompt your staff to answer a set of questions about their work on a regular basis. So this is the check-ins feature we were talking about. And as well as being able to update their goals in a single screen, they can also answer questions that you can customize, that are designed to start that coaching conversation between them and their manager. And this can be really, really powerful in terms of ensuring that outcomes are successful. Then Workteam also provides dashboards that give you an overview of the progress of goals across a team, a department, or across the entire organization. And you can drill down into any dashboard item to view the detail behind it. And your employees can actually become more granular when planning how to achieve objectives and key results. So they can create initiatives or team tasks that reinforce the detail behind how they will achieve each objective. And coupling OKR with feedback and recognition is really powerful and effective. And with Workteam, you can create a culture of praise and recognition that can supercharge your team in terms of their learning, performance, and engagement. And Workteam lets staff give specific feedback which can be optionally rated based on your own company core values or sets of skills that are important to you as a company. If those ratings for feedback are enabled, then employees can actually track how they are rated from within the feedback view that you can see here. And then finally, Workteam integrates with external software to automatically pull down information to update the progress of key results. So for instance, Workteam can pull values from cells in Google Sheets and update the corresponding progress in key results automatically. It saves the employee from having to update those values manually. So it's a really, really useful feature. So just to recap on the Workteam offering, Workteam OKR Goal Management is the offering. It's going to help you overcome all of those pain points associated with a growing company. It includes a tool for OKR, for check-ins, for feedback and praise, and optional task management. There's a 14-day trial. There are no contractual tie-ins once you subscribe, so there is no risk. You can stop subscribing whenever you like and you won't pay anymore. We help you configure ready for rollout to your team or organization, and we will also provide free training to your leadership team and managers. So if this sounds like it will be interesting to your organization, I want you to look at the URL at the bottom of this page and then book a discovery session with us by using that URL below. You can actually find this on our main website as well, https://workteam with a dot before the AM. And if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see a link which says book a demo, and that's effectively the link that you see at the bottom of this page here. So a few questions. Number one, why not use a spreadsheet instead of an OKR tool, instead of Workteam? Well, as we said before, a spreadsheet is hard to manage more than a few people's goals. It's hard to visualize the alignment. It's difficult to see a big picture overview and then drill down to see more detail. And employees are more likely to forget all about their goals because such a tool, such a spreadsheet offers very little engagement. And there is very poor transparency and access of other people's goals. And that's one of the key features that you get, one of the key benefits you get when you're implementing OKR. So why use Workteam instead of another OKR tool? So this is a really important question. So only Workteam provides all the features that you need to manage OKRs end to end, as I've described. And it's really important that a tool can do more than just goal management. So a lot of the offerings out there are just OKR tools, but a really effective OKR tool must continually focus employees back to their goals and combine that with coaching from their managers and peer feedback and recognition. That combination is really important. Very few other tools do this, and even fewer do it well. But it's also important to be able to plan objectives and key results in more detail, and only Workteam provides features that let your employees plan in more granular detail, making it possible to create initiatives or team tasks that can be tracked and assigned to team members. Also, as part of making goal progress transparent in your company, it should be really easy to navigate the organization and quickly access other employees' goals. And only Workteam provides an org structure that lets your employees navigate around and understand that reporting structure and easily be able to navigate around the organization to access those team, department, and individual goals. So third question, how easy is it to deploy Workteam in your organization? Well, the answer is it's very easy to deploy it. So for smaller organizations, you can manually invite your employees one at a time, if you like, from within Workteam. Then it's just a case of adding the organization OKRs. Workteam will do the rest, prompting your employees to enter their goals and align them. But for organizations with a few more employees, then you can import all of your users in one go from a spreadsheet of names and email addresses. And for larger organizations still that have some form of identity provider, such as Azure AD or Okta, then Workteam can be configured to synchronize with that identity provider so that your users are automatically provisioned and deprovisioned. And Workteam also supports SAML single sign-on so that your employees can use their single sign-on password to gain access to Workteam. So again, I urge you to book a demo because there'll be a lot of detail that we've missed in this presentation, and we will have one-on-one time to talk to you about your organization, about what you're striving to do, and show you how Workteam could maybe be used within your organization. So have a look at this URL, which you've seen before, and if you go there, you can book a 30-minute live demo, and we look forward to being able to have the opportunity to present Workteam to you and give you a demo. So thank you very much for listening.